I'm going to try here to explain some shit that I know I have no actual hope of explaining. Because, to be honest, this concept that I'm going to try to convey doesn't even make sense to me. But there is some intuition in me that feels as though this is true. So, okay. I think that, like, change, like, when things change, uh, it's not it's not like uh, see it's all this is already difficult. Change requires some kind of perspective, or I guess we could do this better here. We'll do this. So perspective begets change, right? So what begets means is it follows. Perspective follows change, and what I mean by this is like it is the act of breaking out. Like, okay, let's say we have some fucking phenomena in the universe. We have some things going on. Here's some stuff going on in the universe. There is no way to explain how this phenomena goes from one state to another state, right? And a state is like um, a state is the way this thing is at a particular moment in time relative to everything else. There's no way to determine its state without breaking out the ruler. This is the ruler, right? We got to measure it. And there's no way to measure something without doing it from a perspective. This is an eyeball, right? You can't. So like it's almost like change, right? The nature of change is actually dependent on perspective and vice versa. Because say there are no perspectives, right? Then what this thing actually is not it's not a series of interconnected states. It's actually just one continuous object that is in itself all of its changes and uh, all of its states. With 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 see, it's so hard. This like is anybody with me so far? Because I'm barely with me. I barely even understand this thing I feel so intuitively. It sucks. I hate it. I hate how hard it is to describe this intuitively with language. It's like so far. Fuck. This principle that I've described doesn't just apply to like some arbitrary section of the universe. I think that this is the case for the entire universe, right? The universe is filled with like stuff going on, right? Stuff is happening, and we can either choose to see it as like individual things happening, right? Which is the let me rephrase that. We only have the option of seeing things as individual things that are occurring. That's the only option we have. That is the nature of being something that perceives. Having the eyeball means we have to see things as individual phenomena. We can't not. That's the problem. That's the boundary that perspective gives us. So, okay. But we then have to acknowledge the fact that say like our perspective was zoomed all the way out. Say it is zoomed out as far as we could possibly zoom it out. In that we not only see all phenomena occurring, but we also see them all occurring at the same time. From this perspective, time doesn't exist. You could think of it as like a five-dimensional perspective. Uh, in that, so like, oh, this is so difficult to even fucking. I don't know if I'm just stupid or I have no idea. I have no idea what's going on. So when we look at like dimensions, so this is a two-dimensional object, and as a three-dimensional creature, I can see this in totality. There's no information about a two-dimensional object that I can't parse. Okay? So that is what I mean by perspective. So if I were a four-dimensional creature instead, which I sort of am, because I do have a perception of events as they occur, I could have a fully accurate model of all spatial phenomena. Instead of that perception being limited in any way, which it kind of is, because I can't like go back in time to see things, right? It's anyway. If I were five-dimensional and I had a five-dimensional perception, I could see all that shit bouncing around from a unified perspective. I would see it only as the one thing that it is, which is, I think, closer to truth and reality. So what the fuck do I even mean by that? What the fuck is true? Well, I suppose my point about perspective informs that. So the thing that is the most true is that which the greatest perspective, the broadest perspective, can perceive. Like, I don't even want to say accurately. Uh, it, but the broadest perspective can perceive. That's what's truer. So I think that this whole idea that we have, like, oh, A caused B to happen and then C happened from that, I think that is human life form silly wacky nonsense. I think our perspective is so limited that we can't acknowledge that it's more like A is already B is already C is A is B is C is A is B is C. That when you look at it all together, it's just one singular thing. Am I making any fucking sense? And I think this is the way the entire universe is. I think it's like, okay, so let's get rid of that and move that over. Or you know what, we'll do this instead. We'll expand it. So this thing, right? This whole look at the universe. If you think, if you plot this, like, almost like if you rotate it. If you rotate it on the five-dimensional axis, I don't know what I'm saying, okay? Just bear with me. You get something that looks like this. So like this is us looking at it head on in 5D. But then we rotate it and we see this illusion of like this different way of mapping it based on our perspective that includes all the wacky nonsense that seems to be happening in the middle, right? Like there's like it looks like there's some kind of timeline that's occurring where like here's A, here's B, here's C, here's D, and then here's Z all the way at the end. But actually from this perspective, A and Z are happening at the same time. There's no happening. Things don't happen at a time. It just kind of already is. So like what this is at its core, there is a term for what I'm talking about, and it's called a block universe. And I do think that's like what we're dealing with. And it's only because of our perspective, which is so like what even is perspective? Why is that a thing that we have? So I think it's because of life. So like draw a little leaf for life. Try to draw a little leaf here. Let's draw a flower instead. Beautiful, beautiful flower. So like life is this thing that is inside this, right? Life is this process of matter, which is like this red stuff, like the I don't want to say essence because that sounds too mythical, but the way things move along this spiral is like physics. And in physics, things tend towards increasing entropy. So what entropy really is we have a system here. This is a system. Energy goes in, and it's really tightly packed together, right? It's like all wound up. Energy goes into the system, and then energy that is less tightly wound, the same amount of energy that is less tightly wound, comes out of that system. This energy has lower entropy than this energy. And here's the thing about life forms. Life forms, so like, okay, we've established the universe likes to increase entropy. It likes taking this bundled up energy and morphing it into energy that's like more dispersed. Life is amazing at that. So, it's I like I said, I don't know what I'm talking about. This is all just random shit that I've picked up on my journeys. I don't know who said this, but I've heard it said that life was almost a thermodynamic inevitability because of its ability to do this more efficiently than inert matter. So what that means is, I'll get back to perspective now. We had this matter that was doing its thing. This existence stuff that likes to go from low entropy to high entropy. And it becomes life. And this life thing has this weird quirk where it creates this like shell around it. To increase entropy more efficiently, it has to undergo this process of isolating it becomes its own energetic system so that it can do this, right? And in becoming its own energetic system, it necessarily isolates itself from the rest of the shit that's going on. Like as far as like energy is concerned, and I use the term energy like physically. I'm not talking about the vibe or the spirit, man. I'm talking about like the capacity to do work, which is what energy is. this thing isolates its capacity to do work from the rest of phenomena. I call this individuation. So life forms are individuated. They are closed systems compared to the broader system outside of them. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're not closed systems because they're open systems, because they take in energy and then they let energy out. But, like, they are this kind of converter of enthalpy into entropy. So, why this relates to perspective is because, well, fucking all our perception comes from out, like, inside this thing. We don't have this perspective. We have this perspective where it's like we have the capability compared to this, which doesn't, to see the energy coming in and then disperse it. And that's like the primary thing we do. And so because of that, we're like linked by being alive. Because we're alive, we're linked to this line. We're like tethered to a particular point on this line because we are actively participating in the process that turns this nice tightly packed enthalpic enthalpic energy, I don't know if that's a word, and like into this wacky dispersed energy that eventually ends up on the other end. Is any of this making sense? Please tell me that there's some person out there that thinks this makes any fucking sense. Because it goes further. It like this, not so like not understanding this fact, this thing about what we are, not understanding this informs so many, to me, erroneous decisions about how to live your life and how to look at the broader universe. Because people think that like this is real. People think that this is the the accurate perspective to look at the world and the universe. And they assume that like they can look at it like this from here, but you like can't. You only like the only thing that you've ever been able to observe with your perspective is this shit. The shit that goes in. That's all you get. You don't get all this. You don't get to see it. And so it's like illusory, right? We don't. Again, it's so hard to explain. And I'm almost like done because it's just so difficult to. Um, why I think this matters on like a philosophical level, like on a how you should live your life level, is that you like people personify themselves based on this input. They say this is what we are. This is what I am. I am just the things that I can like this little dot of things I see and experience in reality. But I don't think we're that. I think we are this. We're just a little piece of this. We're just a little entropy converter that happens to like here I'll put another one, right? Here, this is here actually here. Am I making no sense yet? I hope I am. I hope I'm making absolutely no sense to you. So, like this thing, the totality of the things that are, this is things changing, right? This is things appearing to change. This is what it would what this looks like whenever you rotate it and you start looking at it as a timeline rather than the total that it is. Then life is a thing that happens in that, and then life individuates itself, and then life gets convinced because it becomes aware at a certain point that this is what it actually is, when the whole time this is what it was. These are just little pieces. These are just little fragments. Um, there's a name for this. I happen to know this far. It's called natural monism. So it's simply the idea that A, things are the way they are, and B, they are that way singularly. What this means for you as like a human being is firstly that it's unwise to make definitive assumptions about what this is, because we simply lack the perspective to really observe it. And secondly, and this is somewhat mystical, but I think it's good. Excuse me. I've been eating Cool Ranch Flamin' Hot Doritos. They're not very good. I don't like them as much as the other ones. But anyway, the other thing that this means is that we're all the same thing. Like, you see one entropy converter looks at another entropy converter and is like, what the heck is this? I don't know what this is. I've made a terrible mistake. What the fuck is that? I Control Z, Control Y, Enter. What the hell? I don't know what that was. Anyway, one entropy converter looks at another entropy converter that like looks different or talks different or does different stuff, and they're like, that's not the same thing as me. That's different. It fucking isn't. It's only different from your perspective. Your little slice of what you actually get to see of this thing, which is like right here, right? It's only different because it looks different. But in truth, when you do the thought experiment to say what's the furthest I can look out, in truth, it's the same thing. It's just another point on this line. And I think that's cool. I think that is a good reason to be empathetic towards others. Because everything that you choose to do in your little enlightened core of awareness, every decision that you convert enthalpy into entropy using, right? Because that's how you do it. You manipulate what is into things that are more dispersed but are different, is also affecting everything else, because it can't not. It's all entangled. It's all the same thing. It's like a big old spaghetti. And I think I've made no sense for long enough now. So if this resonates with anybody, please let me know. I'm a crazy person. I accept that. So that's that.